Hey everybody, Wayne again with OregonWine.tv. We're going to be talking with Jared Etzel, winemaker for Domaine Worden Hills. Established 2015, fairly new, beautiful. You'll catch a story here in a minute. Want to see what's in my backyard? Hey guys, we're back here with Jared Etzel, and this is, what's the name of this vineyard here? The
Iron Filbert Vineyard.
Iron Filbert, 20 acres, roughly.
Yep.
About 15 planted. How many different clones of Pinot Noir do you have up here?
We have about 8 clones of Pinot Noir, ranging the, really traditionally successful in the Dundee Hills, Wädenswil, and Pommard, to some of the more current Dijon clone, some newer stuff, 943. So we really run the gamut. Just the idea is to have diversity to give the most options when we're blending and making a soulful, fun wine.
That's awesome. Also, tell me a little bit about your farming practices. I mean, I think that's the most important thing when you're making wine is how do you farm to get the best fruit possible?
Yeah. So our philosophy here is to minimize the inputs to the vineyard, and we farm it certified organic. We're not biodynamic, but we farm it organically, and beyond organics, we try to even minimize the inputs that are allowable within organics. For example, you can spray certain micronutrients that are allowable within the OMRI organic certification. We choose not to do that because we'd look at, for example, a soil analysis and see a deficiency by the textbook standard. But to me, that deficiency is what defines and differentiates our site from our neighbor's site, and could give a little bit of imperfection to the wine that is actually a beautiful imperfection and something that's of great value to us. So that's the outlook.
Awesome. And you're all estate fruit here.
Yep.
Your whole label about 2,500 or about 4,500 cases total.
Correct.
You can pump it up to 5,500 pretty much. And what's the other vineyard that you own?
The Quartz Acorn Vineyard, which is Domaine Roy's site in Carleton, and it is a 82-acre farm. It's really kind of the opposite of this farm. This farm is very easy to farm. It's tame. It's very under control, and the Quartz Acorn is very wild. It's rough terrain. It's very raw, and it gives a completely different profile of wine. So it's fun to have the juxtaposition between the two.
And when you look at Pinot Noir, it really thrives between 300 and 800 feet in elevation. This goes from about 350 at the bottom of the hill up to about
510.
About 510. This is right in the sweet spot, and it's perfect. I mean, you have a southern facing slope. Sun rises in the east. You get good morning sun, and of course you get the afternoon warm sun on the west side as the grapes are ripening. All right, so guys, we're going to go inside. We're going to do a barrel sample, and he's going to tell you about the different vessels that he likes to use when aging his Pinots and Chards. All right, guys, hey, so we're now inside the winery itself, and when it comes to fermenting, there's all these different vessels that you can ferment in different philosophies, of course. And Jared, take me through the 1, 2, 3 different fermentation vessels that you use here currently.
So the whole philosophy is just to have a little variation in our vessel to provide different shades of color, so to say, for the blending. So we have our stainless steel open top tanks, which are jacketed. They're very clean, so there's a lot of control, and you can they're very transparent. So they're taking the pure, clean fruit and fermenting it very clean and crisp, I guess is a good descriptor for how the wines come out from a tank like this, and quite predictable. Next we have a concrete tank that was made in Italy, and it's very porous, it's very thick wall, and it's non-sterile, so the temperature change is much different from the stainless steel. It builds temperature very slow, and then it holds temperature and it drops back down. So our fermentation is much longer in this, and the fermentation is not clean. You have the pores, so you have some microbiological contribution to the wine that comes through, and a little more variability, but more artistic and soulful wines, I actually feel like, come out of this, which our objective with Domaine Roy is to make wines true and expressive to the site, but also they have to be soulful, and this contributes a lot to that. So it's finding the balance between soulful and expression of our particular vineyard.
All right, guys. So the last vessel that Jared likes to experiment with are these Amphoras. Go ahead.
Yeah, these Amphoras were made in Tuscany. They're just clay-based and heated up in a kiln, and they've come into fashion as of late in artisanal wine community. But they've actually been used for hundreds and hundreds of years. Georgian wine was very typical and still is very typical. And I think they're really fun to experiment with because they breathe, and there's a lot of oxygen exchange, much more than the stainless and more than the concrete. So they just give another profile. And it wasn't always easy with these, so
I think it's probably a learning curve as well.
Yeah.
Hey guys, these things, they're a vessel, so there's no drainage hole. So if you put red wine in here, skins and seeds and all, you have to dig them out, and just being able to turn them on their side and dig everything out and clean them. It's a lot of work. A labor of love, absolutely. The difference between these two?
They were different manufacturer. The one in the back is a little bit larger and was kilned at a slightly higher temperature, so it's slightly less porous. And then, the clay and the soil difference to make them was there. And so you do see a difference between them. And, we've learned that we need to make Pinot Noir with them. I had a terrible experiment where year one I tried to ferment Chardonnay in them, and they were too porous, and I ruined the wine, and we had to dump it.
That's an honest winemaker right there. They're not perfect people, but you have to experiment to see what works and what doesn't work. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go over and talk about barrels for a few minutes, and then we'll do a barrel sample. So stay tuned. All right, guys, so we're here in the barrel room, which isn't very far from the production facility. These are the barrels. Not too much new wood is used here. The philosophy is let's not push the wines in any direction, let the fruit kind of come out and do its thing. So, Jared, what do we have here in this barrel?
We have iron filbert vineyard, so our Dundee estate vineyard, and we've got fermented in concrete. And it's from the tenderloin, as I call it, of the iron filbert vineyard. So it's Pommard and Badensville clone, co-fermented in concrete. And this one normally makes our top blend, the iron filbert designate, because it's got a nice combination of funk from the concrete, and it's bread, but
funk.
Yeah,
that's a good professional term in winemaking. It's got a nice funk to it.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like it. It's got a little bit of like graphite, a little bit of forest floor type aroma, and then a lot of the pure raspberry, strawberry fruit that we see typical of iron filbert.
So we came off of 5 really beautiful vintages here in the Willamette Valley. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Come to 19, I remember last fall, it got cool in September, and it never really warmed up after that. So now we're gonna have wines of lower alcohol, higher acidity, but I think these wines will really hit their stride in about 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's the style of vintage that I really enjoy. And you're right, the alcohols are 13%. pHs are perfect, 3.5. And there's an elegance and a transparency of the wine. I think it was Hugh Johnson that said you should be able to read a newspaper through your Pinot.
Interesting.
And I think you could do that. So it's the typicity of Pinot Noir that I think also is important. You won't mistake it for a Syrah or a different varietal. Hopefully, and the goal is to be able to say, blind, well, this smells like Pinot Noir and it tastes like Pinot Noir, and maybe even further to Dundee Pinot Noir.
Yeah, and that's what people are trying to disseminate as they continue on their drinking journey. The barrels that you use, different cooperage firms, different forests.
Yep.
Do you have any that you like better than others?
Yeah, our barrel program has evolved from the start, and where we're at now is only 5 to 10% new wood, but we're using Cooper's François Frère, Atelier Center France, and Terranceau are kind of our house favorites. We're using a lot of Trancé wood and blends of Trancé, Allier, and Vosges. But for me now, it's more about the grain of the wood being tighter grain, and the biome that's built up over the years of the wood than it is the new wood impact, because a lot of our barrels are neutral or close to neutral. And that just lets the fruit express itself more purely.
Excellent. All right, guys. Well, you know what? We're going to wrap it up here. If you're ever in the Willamette Valley, we'd love to have you guys over here to Domaine Roy. And Jared's usually here running around. He's a cellar rat too. He's always downstairs doing something. And we'd love to be able to host you.
Yeah.
Cheers to all.
Cheers.
Thank you very much, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.